If you are looking for Star Trek decal sheets, if you are looking for Star Trek model kits, or many other genre modeling kits or accessories, make sure to check out Cult TV Man's hobby shop. That's culttvmanshop.com, where you can find these decal sheets available for pre-order and available for purchase. You will find the USS Cerritos and the USS Enterprise from Strange New World. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing another video about the USS Cerritos, a new model kit that's just been put out by Polar Lights. This is 1/1400th scale, and it is based upon the USS Cerritos from the animated show Star Trek Lower Decks. Now, it did come in two boxings. The boxing that is on screen right there was sold on AutoWorldStore.com, the official store for Round 2 models. But no matter what boxing you had, the model inside was the same. Now I built this model on the channel probably about 2 months ago, but we are going to revisit it today because the Aztec decals just came in. Now, what I like about the model as it is right now is it looks like it's very much rooted in that cartoon aesthetic for Lower Decks. It's kind of simple. It's got kind of its bold lines. It's got its bright colors where it should have bright colors. But overall, a simple, more basic representation of a Starfleet ship. However, in the show, when they do close-ups or when they kind of do big sequences, the ship is more detailed. That's what the Aztec decals are for. Here we are, the official decals by Polar Lights for the Cerritos. Right on top, you get a shot of the ship done with the paneling decals, so you can start seeing some of that detail that will eventually be on the ship. Authentic surface detailing, and then a picture of one of the decal sheets. Now this is a pretty large set of decals. This is probably 12 by 17 if I had to guess how big this was. Around the back, call out for 5 sheets, a picture of all 5 of the sheets. Aztec panel decals cover most of the model surface. Pretty basic backing here, but of course a few more nice pictures of the ship with the paneling decals. Nice packaging. Really does protect the decals. And here we just have them in a plastic sleeve. Instructions right there. All right, so on a blue background, so we can't really see what the color looks like straight off, but we can get a good idea of the detail. So nicely numbered, and you can tell by how much the blue paper is coming through the panel. You can tell they will be light, which is good. It'll accent the model's detail without overpowering it. This sheet is clearly meant for the nacelles and some of the other parts. You can see kind of some of the pylon pieces here. Oh, this is nice. Okay, I wasn't quite expecting this, but we have decals for all of the lifeboats. So if you don't want to paint those little guys, or if you want really just a clean look, you can decal all of those. All right, and here's our final sheet. This is kind of a fun one. I hope the colors are kind of showing up on the video, but you get the marking decals, additional names, and you get them in 3 different colors. So you get Operations Gold, you get Command Red, you get Science Blue. So just like Starfleet uniforms, the ships in the California class are also color-coded. So if you are a science ship or a medical ship, your ship is accented in blue. If you are a command or a tactical ship, you are in red. And if you're operations like the Cerritos, or an engineering ship, ship fixing other ships, you will be in gold. So you get kind of those 3 different markings. And of course, in the TV show, there were several different California-class ships, all named after California cities, like the USS Oakland. I am a Broncos fan. Nothing Oakland will be on any of my models. Carlsbad, Merced, yeah, a couple different cities there. Well, we can't really see much from the sheets, so we're just going to get to work and start decaling our model. All right, so we have my California class model here. Now, these are, of course, done in the official recommended colors. These are the official Tamiya paints recommended on the box. So this build is going to be the official paint colors with the official decals. So we should get a good idea of what the ship is intended to look like by Polar Lights. Now, I've already put some decals on the model, and I have a few thoughts right off. First, this model does not really have any grid lines, so a few less landmarks to look for as you apply the decals. You will be looking for some things like this cutout right here, which is meant for this indentation on the ship. I think the coloring looks great. I think that it's very subtle, just adds a little bit of detail. But my big observation is these decals seem to be from a different manufacturer than most of the Polar Light decals that I have seen over the past several years. These decals are noticeably thinner. And many people, whenever they're working, especially on the Aztec paneling decals from Polar Lights, they complain about how thick they are. These are definitely not thick. They are much thinner. So you really want to make sure you have a wet surface area to start with. And with these being thinner, they are less maneuverable. They're less movable after they're on the model. They seem to be prone to wrinkling a bit. I haven't had anything rip yet, but you're going to want to make sure you have them in the right place as you put them down the first time. All right, so same thing on this decal. I'm going to look for this little landmark here, and it looks like we have a little blank place here, which will probably be for lifeboats. We'll try and line that up first before we start removing our paper. Well, we're really zoomed in right now, but you can just kind of see they're very thin and wrinkle just a little bit if you try and move them. But we're going to try and get them lined up with these lifeboats appropriately. We're just trying to get that little color right in between those lifeboats, and then hopefully we'll be able to smooth it out a little bit with a brush. And of course, a little bit of microsol will take care of any wrinkling afterwards. And on my next one, I've got kind of a bigger cutout here to line it up with first off. So hopefully a little less maneuvering after the fact on this one. You could just see a few wrinkles there. So it'll be a little bit more delicate of a process with these thinner decals, just making sure you kind of can work out all of those wrinkles as you kind of put them on the ship. So thinner decals, they should conform better than the thicker ones. Once again, you've seen no ripping, so that is a good thing. And they seem to be very precisely made. They're really fitting the ship wonderfully around all those cutouts, and you saw how closely it fit along those lifeboats. Overall, the decals are going very well so far, but I do have a couple notes for you. On the instruction sheet, kind of this area under the nacelle, on this side it says it's decal 35. On this side it says it's decal 28. Decal 28 and decal 35 are actually three different decals. So you kind of have decal 35A, 35B, 35C, and it's up to you to kind of figure out how they fit in. But it looks like 35C will go here, then 35B will go right back here, and then 35A is actually going to have to wrap around this pylon here. That looks like it'll probably be the most difficult one. So that's what the instructions call decal 35. The other note I have is they do not provide a decal for this large colored piece on the bottom of the engineering pod. On the kit decals, when you're doing it in the official kind of gold color scheme, they do have a gold decal for you. But if you're going to do a blue or a red scheme, you will have to paint that part yourself. You know, I didn't think I'd have a lot to say when it came to the decals. I thought I would do a montage of me putting the decals on and then just show off the finished ship. But there is a lot to be said about the decals. First, there are some mistakes in the instructions. So on the nacelles, really pay attention to the shape of the decal because some of them are not correct. So we're going to look at decal 43, which is supposed to go on the outside of the left nacelle, and 63, which is supposed to be on the outside of the right nacelle. And so these pieces should be mirrored. 47 should angle up this way and have a little notch right here. And 63 should angle out the other way and have a little notch facing that way. But as you can see here, 47 and 63 are identical. You can see the notch on both is in this upper corner here, and it angles back this way on both of them. So 47 is correct for the outside of the left nacelle, but that means that 63 actually has to be on the inside of the other nacelle. So pay attention to those shapes when you're kind of working on the nacelles. I think that on the right nacelle, it simply has the inboard and outboard side completely swapped. Now, the other thing that's interesting, once again, I feel this is a different manufacturer than Polar Lights and Round 2 have used in the past because they are so thin and they kind of react a little differently. The other thing I'm finding is between the different sheets of decal paper, 2 of my 5 have a lot more glue than the others. Now, I haven't actually tested my 5th sheet, which is the one that has all the colored circles, but I'm going to show you what I mean right here with these 2. So we're going to put them both in water for an equal amount of time. And my water's pretty warm right now. All right, about 30 seconds have passed. I'm not sure which sheet was the one that comes off easily. It is not this one. All right, so this one just moves very freely after about 30 seconds, and we can go ahead and apply that to our model. All right, so this other one, now it's at an extra 30 seconds since I was applying the other one. And this one, still very difficult to move. So it takes about twice as long for this other sheet of paper for the decal to come loose. And it is pretty noticeable as you're doing it. now things are really coming along, and I think it looks fantastic. We have all of those paneling decals on the ship. We also have all of the lifeboats. See, it looks very nice there. I think these decals are turning just absolutely fantastic. I think they have the right level of opacity and color to go with their recommended paint colors here. I think that paneling looks fantastic. I think the lifeboats look good. You can see the lifeboats even on the gray show up pretty well. That's a good look right there. Now the thinner decals, I am finding I've got more wrinkles. We'll still have a round of microsol, but you can kind of see some wrinkling right down here. The wrinkling shows up most on the darker colors, so you can see some wrinkles there. But overall, I think it's looking really good. Yeah, I can see this warp pod back here. You can see a couple wrinkles, but that will be kind of reduced when we do kind of the final dull coat over the ship. I think it's looking really good. All right, and now we are back to the marking decals for the ship. And this is kind of a fun part, picking out kind of the personality of your ship. Are you engineering, are you command, or are you science? Now, an interesting thing here, if you're taking a look, you'll notice there are a lot more of these blue arcs for the Carlsbad than there are of the other two. So you can see on the other two, you have really 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the bold bars for the coloring. And here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you have twice as many blue ones, because on the Carlsbad, it actually had 2 sets of stripes going across the top of the hull. So you can see some extra ones there. Now, you do also still have the phaser strips, and it's a little weird for me because it looks like they have yellow phaser strips for the operations version, red for command, and blue for the science ships. When on the Cerritos, you have a gold color scheme with blue phasers. So you can kind of mix it up. But I'm going to try and stick with the Carlsbad pattern here, and I'll do blue and blue. Even your kind of Starfleet Deltas are done in blue for the ship. And I'm doing the Carlsbad because it's a little more unique with those extra stripes. Alright guys, we've reached the conclusion of my preview and review for the Polar Lights Authentic Surface Detailing Decals, the Aztec Decal Sheet for the USS Cerritos from Star Trek Lower Decks, and I think they are a very well done set of decals. Let's take a look at our ship here. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, these decals seem to be from a different supplier than has been used previously by Polar Lights for their Aztec decals, and they are noticeably thinner, which I think a lot of people have really been looking for. In a lot of the online comments, people have kind of complained about the decals being too thick. I never minded the thicker decals. It was easy to move them around a bit. But these thinner decals work out very well. And there's a couple things I want to show on these decals that I may not have mentioned earlier. So I'm not sure how close we can see here, but these decals are actually cut out around the raised lifeboats. So that big Aztec decal that goes down there for the surface, it has cutouts that really precisely match these lifeboats. I don't think I've ever seen decals cut as closely as these have been. There is almost no overhanging film. If we take a look at kind of the edge of that blue stripe, there's almost no clear film around the outside of the printed area. The decals are very, very precisely cut. Same thing here, the paneling is cut right up against those lifeboats. And if you take a look at those lifeboats themselves, you can see there's really no decal film around the printed area. I don't think I've ever really seen any decals done that closely. If you can see the blue stripe, once again, the printing goes all the way to the edge of the decal film. There's not that little 0.5 millimeter on all sides of clear film around it. All right, here is a good close shot of the paneling colors. Of course, this is the recommended color off the box, and the Aztec decals look very good, kind of blends as you move it further away, but still just kind of well done. All right, let's turn off the lights for a moment just so we can really see the colors on these decals. Now on the dark gray, you still do see some paneling. It definitely does not show up as much as it does on the lighter gray. So you kind of have to really kind of search for it. And I will say the few wrinkles I ended up with on those ones show up more on the dark gray. But still, once you're more than just 2 or 3 inches away, it looks pretty darn good. For the marking decals, yes, these stripes are supposed to be purple on the Carlsbad, not blue. Looking at the screenshots of the ship, this does match pretty well. And the other marking decals really did work out well. Even those phaser strip decals, thanks to being cut so close, really look good and fit to that phaser strip very well. All right, here's a shot at the paneling across the nacelle. So you can really see not many gaps. Pretty much every piece is covered. Nice little blue insignia for the Carlsbad. And there is that warp pod along the back. All right, so my conclusion. Number one, top marks for the decal quality themselves. The thinness worked out very well. No ripping throughout this entire model. No decal ripped. So thin, no ripping, cut very, very precisely right to the printed area. No extra film left around it. And the color choices really, really play well to match the paint and be a good look on the ship. All right, what am I up to next? Now that I just spent the majority of a week laying down decals on a Star Trek ship, well, we're going to keep doing the same because I also have in the authentic surface detailing decals for the Enterprise from Strange New Worlds. So we've got those. And, you know, I also do have a version of the decals from Star Trek Discovery, so kind of the older one there. So we will be able to look at what is different and the same between the two releases. That'll be pretty nice. And that will actually let me wrap up my Strange New Worlds Enterprise. But hopefully this video gave you a good idea of what the paneling decals are like for the USS Cerritos and other California-class ships. Hopefully it gives you a good idea of what you can do with them on your own model. Thank you guys very much for following the channel. Thank you for supporting us on Facebook and on the forums. And I'll be back very soon.